Peace, y'all. This your girl Tiffany here, live in effect. I just want to talk to you guys about something. A lot of people tend to believe that Brother Umar Johnson was the face of Pan Africanism, and he wasn't. He was not the face of Pan Africanism. What he did was giving it a bad name. He gave it a bad name because of his behavior, because of his character. So for those who jumped on the bandwagon of Pan Africanism because of Brother Umar Johnson, what you did was you ride the wave. You was riding the wave. You was in it for popularity. You wasn't in it because you was passionate and you wanted to learn about the information, or you actually studied the information. Nah, you was in it because of Umar Johnson. You was in it because you saw popularity. And it said when any of these movements come about, right? People don't be in it because they want to actually study the information or gain some type of knowledge from it. They in it because of the popularity. See, the concept of Pan-Africanism is not dealing with popularity. It's dealing with the ideology. It shows the commonality between the Africans in the diaspora and the Africans in the continent. As far as political, social, and cultural similarities. It's a way to connect back to your roots, to the origin. That is the main purpose of Pan-Africanism. To connect back to the origin of who we are as Black people. But because of so many identity crises, right? And there's other people that's trying to interfere, they have made it hard. And people have made it a competition to where you have various groups, identity groups, compete with each other. So Umar, and don't get me wrong, he had some good information. The man was pretty knowledgeable. But Umar has made it as a way to leverage to make profit. He has leverage and he has made profit. This man is getting ready to lose the building that he has in Delaware because of unpaid taxes and environmental issues. This man getting ready to lose it all. And this ain't the first time he knew about that. He knew this was an ongoing situation, but he didn't want to tell anybody what was really taking place. He got on there and he said that the government froze his account. He said the government froze his account. He wanted people to donate more money to him. And if anybody donate more money to him, you're a damn fool. Because all those donations that he received over the years, now there should be a question mark. But if you became a Pan-Africanist because of Umar Johnson and you did not do your actual study, you was following popularity. He is not the face of Pan-Africanism. He is not the prince of Pan-Africanism. He's not none of that. Because Pan-Africanism was around way before he was even thought of. One of the first coalition of Pan-Africanism took place. Actually, it started with the Caribbean people. And there's a list of names that we can mention. Henry Sylvester Williams, Alexander Cromwell, Antonov Furman, Edward Wilmot Blyden. There's a long list of names. Then you had Du Bois that came along. You had Mark Delaney. A lot of time people thought that Marcus Garvey was the face of Pan-Africanism. He never claimed himself to be a Pan-Africanist. What he did was he claimed himself to be a black nationalist. However, the ideology that Marcus Garvey had aligned with so much of the Pan-African ideology. So that's why Garvey was looked at as the face of Pan-Africanism because of his ideologies. People, it's up to you to actually study about the movements that you're going to get yourself involved in. You have to read up on the information. You have to do the historical research. And it's nothing wrong with going on YouTube and finding information, but you actually have to read. You have to read about the origins of various type of movements. So that way, you'll get the right idea. You'll get the accurate information. I done heard people say that they used to be Pan-Africanists, but they stopped being Pan-Africanists. Well, you wasn't Pan-Africanist from the beginning. You wasn't a Pan-Africanist from the beginning if you say you used to be. It wasn't in you. That basically means that you just jumping on board just because it sounds popular. So you just gave it all up and said, you know what? I'm no longer a Pan-Africanist. Well, that means that you wasn't dealing with it from the beginning. You wasn't serious about it from the beginning. Because if you were doing a thorough study and research and you was actually in tune with your identity or with your heritage, your African ancestry, you wouldn't have this kind of attitude. And see, people, another reason why people jumped on the Pan-African bandwagon was because they study about ancient Egypt more than they study about any other parts of Africa. Someone asked me the other night, what's the difference between being a Pan Africanist and Afrocentric? Well, I said Pan Africanism deals with more of the ideology, more of political approach, cultural relationship, and social relationship. Whereas being Afrocentric is more in an academia base. Dealing with Africana studies or African studies. But what they both got in common is dealing with the African cultural connection. Again, what they both have in common is dealing with the African cultural connection. Ladies and gentlemen, all this bullshit that's going down, all you doing is bringing about major hindrance on yourselves. You have hindered yourselves. You have created more division amongst yourself and you don't even know it. You're playing tug of war with yourselves. When you jump on one ship to another ship and then this ship to another ship, right? You're playing tug of war. You're playing tug of war on your identity. All because in the name of popularity, in the name of personality worship. A lot of y'all became this FBA because of Tariq Nasheed. A lot of y'all became ADOS because of Yvette Carnell. A lot of y'all became Pan Africanists because of Umar Johnson. And I could go on and on about this. You're playing tug of war with your identity. You're tug of warring with yourself because you don't know where you want to stand. And a lot of y'all do not want to study. You don't want to do the necessary work to find out the proper information. Because if it requires to do the work, you'll be surprised that it will take away your fantasy. It will erase all these imaginary thoughts that you had. It will not fulfill your romanticism. You know what? As a matter of fact, a lot of y'all are tug of warring with the identity of being a human. You having a tug of war with yourself about your humanity. You having a tug of war about yourself as far as your humanity is concerned. But I want to say this one more time. If you thought Dr. Umar Johnson was the face of Pan Africanism, you have been mistaken. That's how he marketed himself to y'all. He advertised himself as a Pan Africanist so he could gain profit. Again, he advertised himself as a Pan Africanist so he can gain profit. So he was able to get away with that. He was able to get away with it because he knew that his scheme will work. That's why you got to take the message and leave the messengers alone. You got to take some of the information and leave the people alone. Certain things you got to take with a grain of salt. Umar suffered from ego starvation. Umar Johnson suffers from ego starvation. He wants to be recognized. He wants to be the face. The man wanted to have a movement that was going to be centered around him. So I don't feel sorry about what's going on with Dr. Umar because he brought this on himself. He has brought it on himself. But then there's going to be people making excuses saying, oh, don't tear down the black man. Don't tear down that black man. Nobody is tearing him down. But if we going to call a spade, then that's what it is. You can't get caught up on the fact just because he's a black man that he can't do no wrong. A spade is a spade, and you got to call it for what it is. So I hope you all have a productive day, and I will stay connected with all of you. So make sure you guys be safe out there. And until next time, peace and power elevation. This your girl Tiffany. I'm logging off.